Okay, so I will just introduce what Read On is. Read On is a European project which is being delivered through 7 partner organisations across 6 EU countries: Ireland, Italy, Norway, Portugal, Spain, and the United Kingdom. This Irish component of the project is being delivered by West Cork Music, and training for this activity was provided by Graffiti Theatre Company. This activity focuses on the development of skills for how to conduct an interview and analyze a text, facilitated interactions between young people and authors, taking an active role in presenting authors and their works to a broader public. Read On is undertaken with the support of the Creative Europe programme of the European Union and Arts Council.
Thanks so much, Ella. I'm Kel, I'm with Graffiti, and I've been one of the facilitators for the Read On workshops. And I'll also introduce you to Caithan.
Hello, I'm Caithan. I am a Cork writer who me and Kel have been helping facilitate the interviews of all these wonderful young people to meet authors for Read On. And today, Thomas and Shauna will be interviewing Adiba. Take it away.
Hi Adiba, great to meet you. We were wondering first if you could read an extract of your book, please.
Yes, of course. So this part of the book is where Hani and Ishu, they are kind of trying to figure out if they want to do the whole fake dating thing. So it's told from Hani's perspective. Ishita leads me away from the classroom and to a deserted corner of the hallway lined with lockers. So she pulls her arms over her chest, like I'm the one who dragged her here and not the other way around. So, did you tell your friends the truth? Not yet, I sigh. Sorry. I mean, I was just going to. That probably doesn't make me sound any better, considering I leapt out of my seat as soon as Ishita appeared. Don't. Ishita's voice is stern. I mean, look, I was thinking, and maybe we should give your plan a try. She shrugs, her voice sounding so casual that it makes me suspicious. And what made you change your mind? I just had a change of heart. I want to help you out. She looks at me like she's doing me a huge favor. If it was anyone else, I would believe that they were doing it out of the goodness of their heart. But Ishita? Right, I scoff. Cough up the real reason. Come on. What's in it for you? She finally drops her arms to her sides and says, I need to be head girl. It's so unexpected that I can only blink at her for a full minute. What? Head girl. I want to be head girl. Since when? You've never cared about that stuff. Yeah, well, I care now. And people like you. She frowns at me like she doesn't quite understand why they do, but she's willing to entertain it. You're like friends with everyone. So if we pretended to date and you put in a good word for me, and you would play along with my friends? Yes, Ishita nods. Totally. Like, whatever you, well, she stops herself before she can finish her sentence. Not whatever you want. Within reason, obviously. You know you're going to have to pretend to like me, right? I ask. And if you want to be head girl, you'll also have to pretend that you like other people. Ishita scrunches up her face as if she's in pain. Yeah, she grunts. I know. I want to ask her more, but I doubt Ishita will answer. She looks like she barely wants to be having this conversation with me now. Should I come over after school? We can figure out all the logistics and no. Ishita cuts me off. I mean, maybe I should come over to yours. You said you're out to your parents, right? You know we're just going to talk, right? Figure this out, not just give me your address. Ishita has already taken out her phone out of the pocket of her shirt. She looks up at me expectantly. I sigh, wondering for a moment if this is worth it. Ishita Day is not exactly a ball of sunshine. We're so far from friends that I'm not sure how we'd go about doing this thing together. I rattle off my address anyway. This may be the only way to convince everyone that I know who I am and what I want.
Thank you for that. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so I'm Adiba Jaigirdar. Mostly not a very interesting person. I'm an author and I am also an ESL teacher. I love playing video games. I recently learned how to crochet. That was my pandemic hobby that I picked up. And I have a lipstick collection that is way too big.
Could you tell us how you got the idea for Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating?
Yeah, so I got the idea actually a long time ago, when I was quite a bit younger. I think when I was like in my late teens, and I was watching this show called Faking It, which used to be on MTV. And the idea for the show was these two girls, they decide to fake date because they want to be popular in their school, and they think, you know, pretending to be queer will make them seem really cool. And so as they're fake dating, one of them kind of realizes that maybe she actually is queer and she's developing feelings for her friend. And so I was really excited because I'd never really seen that kind of like queer representation on TV before, but I didn't like the way it was handled, because like every season it was like this one character was like always going after her best friend who wasn't queer, and it just seemed like it was playing out these stereotypes that we always see. And so the queer girl wasn't really allowed to explore her sexuality or get a happy ending. So I just wanted to like take this idea that I saw and make it my own, and like give it to queer brown girls like me, and, you know, give them the happy ending that I felt like they deserved. So, you know, I had this idea and I actually wrote it down, and I went back to it years later and I came up with the idea for Hani and Ishu, and I wrote the book.
What do you think would be the inspirations for your characters?
The inspiration for my characters, I think I just wanted to write them as like really like nuanced Bengali people, because, you know, growing up as somebody who is Bengali, I think I would like get told I should fit into certain stereotypes, or I would find I was lumped in with other South Asian people. So I just wanted to create like these two characters who are both Bengali, but they were really, really different from each other, but also similar in some ways. And so when I was writing the characters, I would give Ishu like a personality or a certain trait, and I would say, well, Hani has to be like the complete opposite. So that's really how I kind of created the characters. So the inspiration was really like my own life, and kind of a lot of the stereotypes that I think marginalized people often have to deal with, where we're just told like, because we are a certain marginalization, we should be like other people from that marginalization, but obviously we're all different people, and, you know, we're all nuanced.
Do you think that intersectionality is a big part of your inspiration?
Yeah, definitely, you know, because I am, you know, a person who is on the margins of a lot of different identities and, you know, intersecting identities. So when I was writing this book, I was kind of thinking about all of those things and the experiences that I've had and a lot of my friends have had. And I was just trying to write the book and the characters from a lot of these experiences that I know of. And so intersectionality played a big role in the book.
Do you believe that the most important part of any piece of writing is representation?
That's a difficult question. I don't think I do. I don't think it's the most important part. I think the most important part of a piece of writing is the story, because ultimately that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to tell a really, really good story. But obviously, like where representation comes in is the fact that for such a long time, we've had a lack of representation. So ideally in the future, we'll get to a place where the representation won't matter because we will have so much of it. So representation isn't even a word that we'll be thinking of because it'll just exist. So I think at the moment, yes, representation is very, very important because it hasn't been important in the past. But, you know, I want us to get somewhere where we don't even talk about representation anymore.
When did you first start to write?
So I've been writing pretty much my whole life, ever since, you know, I was a kid. Before I could read or write, I used to like come up with stories in my head, and I would like write fan fiction in my head of like TV shows I watched. And then when I learned how to read and write, I started writing stories. I was just always obsessed with storytelling. I think I was very lucky because in Bengali culture, storytelling is very, very important, and literature is very important. So it was very encouraged by my family. And then, obviously in Ireland as well, storytelling is very important. So I always felt very supported in wanting to tell stories. So yeah, I've been writing my entire life. I love stories and I love telling them.
Do you ever use other types of writing, such as poetry or short stories or letter writing?
Yes, definitely. Actually, when I was a teenager, I used to write a lot of poetry, and poetry was actually some of my first published work in like literary magazines. Like I had a few poems published in like university I went to. In my school, we had like a small literary journal. So, poetry was definitely very foundational in my writing journey. I've also, written a lot of like essays, which have been in books, and also like blog posts and, things in newspapers. So yeah, I love writing different things. I love trying like different genres and different mediums. So yeah, I've written a lot of different things, and I hope I keep writing lots of different things too.
Do you have a preferred writing format?
I think I like writing novels because you can really like dig deep into your characters and dig deep into a story. Because when it comes to something like short stories, it feels like very short. Obviously, it's a short story, so it's short. But you kind of get to meet the characters, and then like just as soon as you meet them, you're saying goodbye. But with a novel, you get to meet the characters, you get to know them for quite a long time, and then you get to say goodbye. So it feels like they're your friend for a little bit, and I really like that. I like that with the novel, it has all that length. It has like a lot of depth that you might not get from other mediums.
What is your process for writing novels? Do you have to be in like a specific place or anything like that?
So I describe my process for writing novels as chaos. Because I don't really like having a routine. So, it's never writing in one place or writing at a certain time of the day. I used to try, if I would wake up in the morning and I would write like at my desk, and I would get a lot of writing done. The next day I would think, okay, I'm going to do that again. And obviously I'm going to write the exact same amount, and that would never happen. So what I try to do is I try to like change it up. So, I change the places I write, I change the times I write, I take lots of breaks if I need them. And I just try to like follow my creative process and, listen to what my novel needs and what my creative process needs.
What is your process for creating characters?
That's a really good question. I'm actually not sure what my process is. I think I just try to think about the story that I'm writing and what the story needs for characters. And then once I kind of have a little bit of an outline of what these characters look like, I also think about what kind of a story the characters need. So they kind of play off of each other. Because I want my characters to be these people who can't really exist outside of this very specific story. So I want them to be very specific to the story. And in the same way, I want the story to be very specific to the characters as well. So I kind of build both the story and the characters together, and I think of what both of them need for the other thing to exist.
Speaking of your characters, who do you think you relate to more, Hani or Ishu?
So when I was a teenager, I was definitely Hani, because I, like Hani, I kind of grew up around whiteness, and I definitely tried to kind of appease that, and I tried to kind of hide different parts of myself. But then as I've grown older, I think I'm a lot more like Ishu. Not exactly like her, but definitely a lot more like her, because I speak my mind more. I'm like more blunt. I'm a lot prouder about who I am. So in different parts of my life, I've been both of them. So I'm probably like squarely in the middle.
Was it difficult to switch from character perspectives?
Yes, it was really, really difficult because like they both have these very specific voices. So like shifting from one voice to the other was a little bit tough, especially because Ishu has a really, really strong voice and Hani not necessarily. But when I would kind of shift chapters, I would usually go back and I would read like an Ishu chapter if I wanted to write an Ishu chapter. Then I would like get that voice in my head, and then I would write it.
Do you ever ask people for advice when you're writing?
Yes, I ask a lot of people for advice when I'm writing. Obviously, you know, we have editors as authors. So like I would often go to my editor and be like, can you help me with this? Like, can we brainstorm ideas? But I also have a lot of author friends, and I'm the kind of person who will like get on WhatsApp and I'll send like 7-8 minute long like voice notes to my friends, like asking for help and detailing out all my problems. And then, you know, I would have like a lot of phone calls with my friends as well, like brainstorming ideas. So yes, I think writing, like we think of it often as like a solitary activity, but I definitely think it's very collaborative. And the more collaborative it is, I think the better the writing is.
Do you ever like write as a group with other people? Like in the same room with them, or writing on a collaborative piece?
Yes, definitely. I've been to things like, I used to be part of a writing group in Dublin. Haven't been, obviously with the pandemic, you know, we haven't actually had a chance to meet up for a long time. And I've been to like writing retreats. So the one that I went to was like in Edinburgh, and it was me and like 4 or 5 other authors, and we booked an Airbnb, and like we would like chat about writing, chat about publishing, complain a lot. And then, you know, we would get together like in the sitting room or whatever, and we would like just write for a while as well. And it was like super fun because we did touristy things and we went to eat like at nice restaurants, but then we also like encouraged each other to write. So that was really, really nice. Haven't worked on anything collaborative so far, but I would love to in the future because I love collaborating with other writers. So that's definitely like on my to-do list.
Do you think this form of collaborative writing is easier than doing it mostly solitary?
I think it depends. It depends on the person that you're collaborating with, because when you're working on a collaborative piece, I think you need to be able to be really honest with each other, and you need to kind of say like, no, like this needs to be reworked. And then the other person has to be able to take that feedback without kind of getting offended and taking it too hard. So I think, you know, if you know somebody who you're maybe really close with, who you work really well with, that could work out and it could be quite easy. But if it's someone that you maybe don't know too well, or you don't have chemistry together as writers, that could be quite difficult.
So Hani and Ishu is a story that is very close to your heart from what I've heard. Is it sometimes scary to share something that is very interlinked with your own experiences?
Yes, I think it can be a little bit scary because you're not sure, you know, how people are going to respond. And sometimes like it can be a little bit hurtful if people are taking like maybe if I put something very specific that I've experienced and people like react to it very badly, it can be hurtful. But I think, you know, the good thing about fiction is that it is fiction. So no matter how much of yourself you put there, I think there is like distance there. So I always try to think of that distance, and I don't take things too hard, hopefully. So yeah, it can be difficult, but it hasn't been so far.
When you're writing a book, do you generally plan out the whole story, the plot in your heads first, or do you go piece by piece?
So this is where my chaotic writing process comes in, because with my writing, I have kind of tried a little bit of everything. So with Hani and Ishu, I had absolutely zero plans. I just sat down and I wrote the entire book. But with other books, yes, I have like planned everything out. I have like an outline that I'm writing from. So I kind of tried to follow what the book is telling me, whether it needs an outline or I can just kind of wing it. Yeah, I just try to follow my creative process.
Why did you decide to write from two perspectives?
So it's kind of going back to what I said about wanting to tell like very nuanced stories of two Bengali people. So I wanted to show like there are multiple ways to be Bengali, multiple ways to be queer. And I just wanted to show like not just these two characters, but also their lives, and the fact that, you know, they're from different religions and, you know, they are both Bengali, but they are actually from different countries. They have different experiences as migrants because one of them is first generation, one of them was born in Ireland. And also I want to show like their family lives, because I think a lot of the time when it comes to South Asian families, there's a stereotype that, you know, the parents are very strict, and, you know, maybe they're not as accepting or loving of their children. So I want to show that, you know, there are so many South Asians in the world, and definitely there are strict parents like Ishu's parents, but also there are parents who just love their children unconditionally, like Hani's parents. So yeah, with these two perspectives, I just really, really want to show the differences of being Bengali.
How long does it typically take you to write a first draft?
So it really depends. With Hani and Ishu, it was really, really fast. I wrote it in 30 days. With my previous book, it was a little bit slower. It took me about 3 months. So yeah, it just depends on the book.
Did you face any challenges in the publishing process?
Thankfully, I really didn't face many challenges. I think I was quite lucky because when I started, you know, searching for an agent and searching for a publisher, everybody really, really wanted a rom-com. Because, you know, I think Love, Simon had just come out, Crazy Rich Asians had just come out, To All the Boys I've Loved Before had just come out. So everybody was like, I want some diverse rom-coms. And, you know, I didn't plan it this way, but I just happened to have one. So I think I got pretty lucky and I didn't really face, you know, many challenges as I was trying to publish the book.
Are rom-coms your favorite genre to write?
I think yes, probably. I really like writing them. I always, you know, enjoy writing them. I kind of laugh at my own bad jokes, which is one of my favorite parts of the writing process. So yes, to write, I think probably rom-coms are my favorite.
What's your favorite genre of book to read?
So I've been reading a lot of thrillers. So I think they're probably my favorite genres. Whenever I'm kind of in a reading slump and I'm not sure like if I want to read, I will pick up a thriller and will get me out of my slump. So yes, thrillers.
Has any book in particular inspired you in your writing?
Yes. So I think one of my biggest inspirations is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han, because I read that entire series and I started writing my debut novel like almost immediately after, just because when I read that book, I hadn't actually read any like diverse rom-coms before that. And I was kind of thought like diverse rom-coms couldn't exist or they wouldn't get published. But then I read Jenny Han's book and I saw like how popular it was. I saw, you know, the really adorable movie, and I thought, well, maybe there is a place in publishing for the books that I want to write, so I could go and write my books.
Do you prefer to type or write?
I definitely prefer to type because it is a lot faster. But when I am finding it really difficult to type, I actually do like write by hand and then I switch over. Like changing the medium of writing sometimes helps with your creativity. So, you know, usually I type because like writing by hand is just too many hand cramps and takes too long. But I do write by hand sometimes.
When you do write by hand, would it be really messy, or would you like to keep it nice and organized so you can read back over it later?
It is very, very messy. Very messy.
You have any ideas for future creative projects?
Yes, I have a lot of ideas. I have like an entire spreadsheet full of ideas. But I have 2 books which are, coming out soon. And one of them is like, it's a little bit different from what I've been writing. It's a historical novel set on the Titanic. It's called A Million to One. And it's about these 4 girls who get on the Titanic to like plan a heist and steal this like jewel encrusted rare book. So that's been really fun to write. And then after that, I have another rom-com which is called Do Not Fall in Love. And it's about this girl who enters like this Great British Bake Off style like reality TV show competition, and she's competing against her ex-girlfriend and also somebody else that she's kind of developing feelings for. And it's like kind of punny, and there's lots of baking in it.
Would you ever write a sequel to Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating?
Well, I would love to write a sequel. I actually have an idea for a sequel, but it would depend if anybody would want to publish it. So I would love it, but we will see what happens.
What advice would you give to young authors?
So I would say finish writing things, because when I was a new writer, this was the most difficult part for me. I would get to like the middle of a story or a book and I would just give up because I'd get tired and I would be like, I hate this, so I'm just going to stop. But then once I started finishing what I was writing, I could go back and actually revise it and make it better and work on that. So I think finishing things is like a really, really big challenge. So work on finishing your work, because if you don't finish writing your book, like it's not going to get published. So finish writing your book and you can work on it from there.
We've got time for maybe like one more question, and then we're going to open it up kind of to the rest of the group, if that's okay. So Thomas, if you want to ask one more question.
Okay. I was just wondering, did you have any hard days while writing Hani and Ishu?
So with Hani and Ishu, it was kind of a weird book because I just wrote it so fast. And I don't think I really had any hard days. I was very lucky because when I was writing this book, I was actually on holiday in Manchester visiting my brother and my sister-in-law. So I would be like on their couch and I would write like sometimes like 5,000-10,000 words a day. And then they would take me out to dinner to eat like biryani. So it was like living a very charmed life writing this book. So thankfully I didn't have like a lot of challenging days.
Okay, thank you so much. So we're going to open it up to now everyone else. So obviously, Thomas, Shauna, if you have any questions that you still want to ask, you still can. But if anyone else has questions, if you want to like use the little raise hand, or actually raise your hand, and we can call on you and you can ask Adiba any questions that you might like. Yeah, sure, Sarah, go ahead.
Hi, Adiba. I'm really enjoying the interview so far. I just wanted to ask you, you mentioned To All the Boys I've Loved Before and Love, Simon as kind of books that might have inspired you in some way to write this. Would you ever, those were made into films, so would you ever consider, if someone approached you to make Hani and Ishu into a film, do you think that would be something you'd be willing to do as a project?
Yeah, I would love that. And I think it would make like a cool movie, like To All the Boys. Unfortunately, authors don't really control movies, so it can get like very complicated. But, if it was a possibility, I would definitely love that.
Akeno, I can see that your hand is up. Do you want to ask a question? Oh, he can't actually say it out loud, but he's put it in the chat. So his question is, he has been dubbed the minority of minorities. He is a Taiwanese transmasc queer disabled immigrant. So it's definitely awesome to see this representation in Ireland. His question is, what advice do you have for BIPOC youth, who both as authors and as people in this scary world?
That's a difficult question. I think my advice would just be to like find your people, which is a lot easier now than it was, before, because we have the internet, and we can thankfully find people who share our marginalizations on the internet. But yeah, I would just say find your people, find people who share your marginalizations, so you can have kind of honest conversations with, because it will help you kind of learn to love yourself more. And you can also tell them about your frustrations, because as I said, I'm known for those like 7-8 minute WhatsApp voice notes, and they're often just about me being frustrated about things as well. So just find your people, speak to them, and it will also make you a better writer, because I think when you can kind of reflect on your experiences with somebody else who might have similar experiences, it helps you write better characters and better stories.
He says thank you. I don't know if you can see the chat popping up.
Yeah, I can see it. Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Okay, anyone else? Oh yeah, Sloan, go for it.
This is definitely a lot of a lighter question, I think, than again us. But you said earlier that you like playing video games, so I was just wondering what your favorite one is at the moment.
That is a difficult question, because I'm not actually playing a video game right now. The last video game I played was Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I really, really enjoyed. I'm a big fan of the Assassin's Creed games. And I'm hoping to pick up like Valhalla soon as well. Hopefully after I finish writing the books I'm writing. So yeah, Assassin's Creed is definitely one of my favorite video game franchises.
Shauna, yeah.
Do you ever find that video games can be a distraction from your writing?
I don't think so, because I think video games really actually help me be a better writer, because when you're kind of writing, I think you can get very caught up in your own world. But I find when I play video games, I get very focused on the world of the video game and like all the problems that these characters are having. It's very immersive. So then I forget about all my problems and I feel less frustrated.
Does anybody else have any questions? Joe, yeah, sure.
Hi, love the book. The scene with Nikita and the principal, was that like inspired by anything? Because that was definitely one of my favorite scenes in the book.
It wasn't inspired by anything specific, no. Like it wasn't like something like that happened to me, but I think that is like an experience that unfortunately a lot of people do have. So I was just taking from kind of experiences that I know that I've had and I know that other people have, but it wasn't like a specific thing that had happened to me.
Sarah, go for it.
Are any of the characters based off real people in your life or people that you've come across?
Not specifically. So I try not to like take directly from people that I know, but definitely like bits and pieces of the characters are taken from people. So when I try to like make characters, I like take a little bit from everyone and make the character. So yeah, like I definitely think of, people that I know and experiences that they've had, but I don't like take it directly.
Thomas.
Hi, the principal was just mentioned there. I was just wondering, do you think the more low-key racism and discrimination that was going on there was just as important to be recognized as some of the other more out there stuff that happened during the book?
Yeah, definitely. I think what a lot of people don't recognize is that, or what a lot of people think racism is like when you're walking down the street and somebody like yells a slur at you, which obviously like that sucks, but you can kind of get over it. And it's like, well, that was just a stranger like saying a slur, like I can deal with that. But it's those more insidious things where, you know, somebody who you consider a friend says something that is very microaggressive or does something that is very hurtful. Those are the things that are really, really difficult to deal with, because they actually they put you at risk. Because, you know, for somebody like Hani, she didn't know like what would happen if she spoke to her friends about what she was dealing with. Would she like not have any friends anymore? You know, what was she risking? So I think those more insidious forms of racism can often be a lot more challenging to us and a lot more of a risk.
Ella, yeah.
Hi, so you're releasing like loads of books, very busy. So what would be some of the main things that like would motivate you to like keep working on your projects?
That's a difficult question. Honestly, at the end of the day, I just really like writing and I really like stories. So I think, you know, just I guess the joy of creating, that is definitely something that motivates me. But also like having like good people around me who like encourage me to write, and you know, who also love my stories. All my author friends who like read my work and give me feedback. My agent, he is like incredibly enthusiastic and supportive, so him as well, definitely. Yeah, just like people around me who encourage me and, you know, keep me motivated all the time.
Thank you.
Sarah, yeah.
Sorry, I'm back again. I just wanted to know, you said you like reading thrillers. Do you think you'd ever consider writing a thriller?
I would love to write a thriller, but unfortunately, I don't think I'm smart enough to write a thriller. And, you know, I think to write a thriller, you have to like plot it out very carefully. And I'm not really there yet. I don't really do like that intricate plotting because I have friends who write thrillers, and one of my friends, she said she wrote like a 23-page outline for the thriller that she was writing, and my outlines are like 1 page long, if even that. So I don't think I'm there yet as a writer, but maybe someday in the future when I gain the skills to write a thriller.
Evie, go for it.
What would be some of your favorite thrillers to read?
Gosh, that's a difficult question. So the friend that I mentioned, her book recently came out. It's called Ace of Spades. So that was a really brilliant thriller. I definitely recommend that. Other than that, I've been reading a lot of like adult thrillers as well. So I love books like Big Little Lies. I really love the TV show for that as well. I thought that was really good. Yeah, those two books are really, really good.
Any more questions, guys? Sarah, go for it. Don't be shy at all. It's okay if you've asked more than one question. We've got loads of them, so go for it.
Have you ever tried ghostwriting before or been asked to do ghostwriting before?
I haven't been asked to do ghostwriting. I do know people who have ghostwritten. I think, you know, ghostwriting can be really good. They can be like necessary for certain things. I don't know if I would personally do it, but yeah, I think like there's a lot of different factors that comes into ghostwriting, but no, I haven't done it yet.
Okay, we might take one, maybe two more questions. So if you've got, oh, Akeno is in with one. So he says, another heavy question. Are you interested in writing a submission for the NAPAR, the National Action Plan Against Racism, which is a public consultation?
I'm not sure if I know exactly what that is.
I'm not sure if I know exactly what that is either. I guess, would that be like a collection of personal essays, Akeno? or is it more creative stuff? So maybe while we're waiting for Akeno's kind of explanation, does someone else have a question in the meantime? Joe, yeah.
You said like some of your like earliest published sort of stuff was to like poetry. Do you think you'd ever like try and find a way to weave poetry into some of your novels?
Yes, possibly. I mean, I think some really, really great books nowadays are actually like novels in verse, which I think is really amazing. Like authors like Jason Reynolds, Dean Atta, whose books are absolutely amazing. But I think my poetry is not on that level yet. So it would I would again have to, you know, improve my skills before I thought about doing that. But you know, maybe someday in the future.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if Akeno is able to. Oh, okay. It's working with the Anti-Racism Committee, helping build policy, and the submissions are mostly personal experience to influence government bodies.
So I mean, I'm not a person who would necessarily know a lot about like policy. And again, like I mean, that sounds really interesting, but I wouldn't want to get involved unless, you know, I knew exactly what was involved and that I was actually making valuable contributions. So, you know, again, maybe that's something that I need to gain some skills in, and then I would consider it.
Cool. Well, I think unless anyone else has any last questions, we can kind of wrap it up there. Thank you so much, Adiba, for coming, and to our wonderful interviewers, Shauna and Thomas, the wonderful sibling duo act, amazing, and for Ella for introducing, and everyone else for your amazing questions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was really great speaking to all of you. So thank you.